My life is crumbling.
Things are not perfect.
You just have to go really hard.
That's a foxhole moment, I guess.
So we want to dive deep into the trenches.
I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be like this.
Everything's sacrificed when you're trying to build a business.
Yeah, I want that.
We'll see how deep in the foxhole we get.
Welcome back to another episode of In the Foxhole. I'm your host, JC Chanowsky.
And I'm Angela Schroeder.
Good day, Angela. How are you?
I am great.
This was kind of a fun start. I was probably one of the first times I've got a little giggly when we started to get going on this one. But as always, I'm excited, but a little more excited about today, only because the relationship that we formed with Dan over the last couple of weeks has been absolutely incredible and going to be instrumental to our venture in the Unique Genius world. But Dan, I think I've talked to you and seen you now more than I have my local family and friends. And I'm excited to have another conversation and actually dive more into the life of Dan. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so funny to bring that up because we've been on meetings, we've been on shows, we're trading books via Facebook Messenger in the mornings and evenings. My team is doing things that Angela's told me a week ago. Yes, the last few weeks have been awesome. And I feel like there's been a ton that's changed in my personal life and work life because of it. So let's keep it going. I'm into it.
Yes. This is right now a season of collaboration for us and, being very intentional with our relationships because time is so important. And we feel that, the investment that we have with each other is so important to our growth for ourselves personally, our business and our customers. So we're excited to be working with you and your team.
Yeah. And before we let you dive into who Dan is and tell the audience, I want to piggyback off of that. Like you're saying, this ripple effect of things going on. We have the same things of big changes in our business from conversations. And we talk about that a lot, that's, this new season of collaboration with you really started when we were at an in-person event together in Cancun. And just the impact that relationships and conversations, by showing up, being present, investing in those connections and relationships, what comes out of those. That it's not just the referral things that you think or what's going to come out of, it's the sharing ideas and the back and forth of that energy and collaboration and what comes out of it. I told you, I was like, I've never described my culture as the Maslow's pyramid before.
Yes.
And, just in talking to somebody else. So I just wanted to echo that we so appreciate what has come out of our collaboration.
Right back at you. I think folks here, my company, have they don't know the impact that 15 minutes in a hotel lobby has had on how we're spending our day to day. It's crazy, the butterfly effect of a really good conversation. When you're in those in-person sessions are good, you learn content, but that 15 minutes that you really nail it in person is what makes the whole thing worth it. And I feel like that was such a great example. Let's keep going. Let's keep collaborating. I need another 15 minutes to totally change how I'm operating my business.
All right, Dan. Well, let's keep it going. Why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and tell them a little bit about you, where you're at right now, and how you got to that journey.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hi everyone. If you don't know me, my name's Dan Fleisher, co-founder of HireBus. Before HireBus, I was operating the Conquer coaching business. I've had a windy professional path. Actually, I don't think you guys know this. I'll ask you as a guest, JC and Angela, what do you think my first job was? My first full-time job, real job. Good guess. What do you think, Angela?
I don't know why I thought car sales.
No, that's amazing.
I'm only echoing. I did car sales for a hot second before I started my business. So.
I wish I would have gotten chewed up if I was in car sales. I wouldn't have survived. My first job was I was a special education high school math teacher at the poor school in Dunn. Part of what I share that because it's part of what really drives me today is education, and education through content, sure, but education through relationships and understanding what people need is what I really loved about teaching. Not necessarily sure, algebra is important, but honestly, not really. It's more about learning how to learn and loving learning. So I was a teacher. And then I moved from teaching. I got called to the school district to run some of the board initiatives because as JC called out, they're like, you're probably pretty good with Excel. You could probably help us do some of this stuff. So after doing that, I realized that I could have a pretty big impact here with a little more training. So I went and got my MBA at Northwestern. But I found when you go to get your MBA at Northwestern, it's not very affordable. And so there's jobs that pay your tuition for you if you work for them for a fixed period of time. So I worked at Deloitte in the growth strategy practice. It was a really hard job to get, a really hard job to execute. And I learned a ton about advising businesses on how to grow. Anywhere from Pfizer to nonprofits to big hospital systems to big consumer brands that we all know. So I got a lot of exposure to those businesses. And I quickly realized that although I love the strategy part, what I don't love is like the faceless, nameless part of it. You do a project where you save a company be with billions of dollars by like creating some optimization. That's great and all, but it just doesn't feel as impactful. And so that's where I pivoted into small business owners, entrepreneurs, specifically in the trades, because going back to my teaching roots, like the service, the delivery of services that you directly have a positive impact on people's lives is just a really powerful way to run business. And that's how I got involved in Conquer. And so from teacher to being a management consultant and learning a ton of strategies that you can take from the big dogs, Fortune 5 companies, and they still apply to all of us running what we call small businesses and entrepreneurs. And that's where I find a lot of power, and that's where I find a lot of joy in what I do every day.
What a fun story right there. Like I said, I had
Yeah.
no clue or whatever would have guessed that.
Accounting
And
car
how it
sales,
all
I kind of dig it.
I mean, we went back and forth on my HireBus assessment and outside sales. See, I was using it in my natural. But yeah, I mean, you weave together like parts of, like you said, teaching and what you took from, the wisdom of getting to be in that consulting position to now, really getting to make a difference. And we get to see and witness your passion in that all the time in making a difference in small business owners. Why don't you tell us a little bit? You told us the journey to get to HireBus, just a little bit about what HireBus is.
Yeah. So, well, I'll start with the mission. The mission of HireBus is to empower to empower the forgotten small business owner with the best tools possible to hire, retain, and grow great talent. So there's intentionality there with the forgotten small business owner, because we all see it, we all feel it as businesses are getting acquired and rolled up, as it's getting harder, as the roadblocks to starting a business are often getting harder. It is hard to run, to be an entrepreneur and run a small business. And so our point of view is like, we want to make it not only the best tools, but we want to make it affordable so that you're not making sacrifices to use these tools in your business. Now, what is the tool? What is the solution? What is the pain? At Conquer, we coach over 20,000 home service pros. And when you have that volume, you see trends. And the trends that we were seeing is pretty clear, which is systems are what drives success. Systems in marketing, systems in sales, systems in production, systems in admin. All of those are not easy by any means, but there's tools out there. There's resources, there's playbooks to run. And although there are playbooks to run for hiring on like how to write a good job ad, how to structure interviews, et cetera, there's a pretty key tool missing, which is how to connect all that possible and how to get data in the same way that you would get for marketing or sales and production. And so we saw that this was a real pain. We saw that this is something that needs a tool that's nuanced and sophisticated. And so that's why we built HireBus, to not only do a lot of the blocking and tackling of posting job ads, nurturing candidates, having them fill out an application, having them schedule an interview, but also the science of having them take an assessment that gives you really good data that you can't get elsewhere. So it's one of those, like, we saw the pain, we felt the pain ourselves, we looked for a solution ourselves, said, oh, this works. Maybe let's bring this to more people.
Yeah. And we've been nerding out on HireBus with you. I love the psychology and the science behind it. We've talked a lot about, when I first talked to you about this, it was like saving a business owner from themselves. That's how I saw it for me, is as business owners. We didn't have these tools, big businesses did. That's how they did things. But as small businesses, we just were lovers of people. People walk into the business, we're like, yeah, you're awesome. And this is a tool to take the emotion out of that hiring, help you put the right people in the right seat on the bus, and then lead them in a great way. All backed, like I said, by science. And so you're not just trying to throw spaghetti at a wall in hiring, just like marketing. When you use data, like you said, you're not trying to throw spaghetti at a wall. You've got some science behind it. So it's incredible. You guys, I love what your mission statement is and how you're living it out. And we're excited to be working with you and Unique Genius too.
Yes.
Likewise. Yeah.
So before we dive
Oh yeah, let's dive in.
So before we dive into like foxhole moments in the journey and the things that you've built, why don't you share with us a win that you're celebrating? And it can either be in business or in some aspect of your life.
I'm going to share a personal win because I think you guys had a pretty big influence on me. I don't know if I like overtly knew this, but I think what some of the things that you all do, namely posting gym selfies that I sometimes see or have seen, over the months, has helped me, because my big win is I love sports. I love athletics. I love fitness. I love working out. And I recently had shoulder surgery. And since the day that I was cleared to work out, I have not like snoozed or skipped a schedule. Actually, that's not true. I did once out of like 60 something, I skipped a workout. And I think that even makes it better, because it shows that it's not like super easy. But I've been more consistent in my 5:30 a.m. workouts than ever in my life. And I think you guys are part of it, just by like seeing your posts, but also feeling what it felt like to be like incapacitated for so long. It's like, all right, I can't take this for granted. I got to really get back, get healthy, make sure the shoulder's strong, so I'm not old and cranky and whining about my shoulder. So it's been really good to be consistent, have that be just like a given that it's going to happen in the morning. I'm going to work it.
No better feeling for us than like just to knock it out early. Like, it's a non-negotiable for us. We might be a little bit late, 15 minutes late, 15 minutes early, but we're there. We're showing up, whether we want to be there or not. It's just, for me, to get it done first thing in the morning. There's no excuses the rest of the day, but to continually show up and start feeling better about yourself, having that presence of, walking into a room and feeling good, not only physically, but mentally. It's so powerful in the growth of ourselves as individuals, but for us too, consistently being there, and our kids seeing that now too, and the impact that it has on others on social media, just constantly showing up, and we're there. I mean, it may not be the best workout every single day, but we showed up, and thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you all. It's been nice to embrace kind of like the chopping wood elements of life. The idea of like some things you just gotta take it by just chopping wood. It's not pretty. But it's been fun to kind of like embrace that in a way that I don't think I have before. So keep posting, because it has an impact on people.
So what's your, you said you're a sports guy. What's your favorite sport to play?
I play a ton of flag football. Growing up, I played a lot of soccer and lacrosse. You all know, I'm like, 5'10", pretty slight. So flag football is perfect, because it's a sport I've always wanted to play. But every time I played tackle football, I would get blown up. And so it's great. My smaller frame is perfect for flag football. So I play a lot of flag football. And then I've got really into backcountry ski races. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to show you all photos, but my last backcountry ski race was a 25-mile backcountry ski race. Me and my partner were crushing it. We're doing great. And then on the downhill, like we'd done over half it on the downhill, he broke his ankle, and we were out in the wilderness for 6 hours. Like these like rescue avalanche mountain men who were like awesome. Took us 6 hours to get back to where a snowmobile could take him out. Total adventure, total journey. It was negative. Yeah, I got some crazy photos. If we have time, I'll send them to you so you can see pictures of my buddy and us all dragging him in a sled across a mountain with his broken ankle. It was loud.
That's an experience right there that you don't want to repeat.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. You learn a lot about yourself sitting in a tree when it's -2 for 2 hours waiting for people to come.
Yes, you do.
Is this the moment? Are they ever going to come?
Test the level of resilience.
I was, I really enjoyed, I played soccer growing up too a lot. I was a lot smaller back in high school. I mean, like 110, I think, wet. But I really started enjoying ultimate frisbee about
Ooh.
10 years ago. I love something about a frisbee, like just being able to launch it 50, 70 yards down the field and just have somebody go up and just grab it. I don't know. It's fun. It's fast moving, fast paced. And I kind of like those type of sports like flag football. So
The ultimate frisbee, I've only played like recreationally, but I feel like the highlight reel is what makes that sport so fun. Like the frisbee kind of floating in the air and going up and getting it or diving and catching it. That's sweet. Like that, it's made for modern highlights and cameras. I would love
Yes.
like
That's
the
what makes
clips
me
of the
involved.
ultimate frisbee championship.
all right. Well, like life, and this highlight reel of sports and excitement, business really isn't always that exciting. We do have these moments of unknown, of like, let me get out of this. This is scary. I don't want to be here anymore. Can you share a couple of those moments during your entrepreneurial journey, whether it's, when you're working for somebody else or where you're at now, a time where just it wasn't great. Like you're just ready to give up, start over, get out of it, abort, whatever it was. Can you share that experience with us?
Yeah, I mean, this is hard because it's like which one to pick, right? Like which one to pick out of all of the painful moments. I think there's one that's somewhat recent, maybe like 2 or 3 months old, that I think I've been thinking about a lot. I probably haven't told you all this. I've been thinking about this one a lot because like I felt it, I feel it. You could explain it away as like a small mistake with big ramifications, but it also shows the importance of like detail. So it was actually with a HireBus client. And I think this is good to show like the real. I'm not saying everything's perfect, everything is blah, blah, blah. HireBus client, really great company. They got 2 funnels, one for a general manager position. And just for context, our HireBus funnels are where we like post ads for you, have the candidates fill out an application, take a HireBus, we schedule them on your calendar. And all you do is just take interviews with candidates that have gone through the process. So they had a general manager position and then like a crew member, very entry level labor position. And we set these things up, they're custom, all that good stuff. And I get a really upset phone call from the client who told me that she spent 6 hours rescheduling and rearranging interviews because, and I later found out, all of the folks that have applied to the general manager role were then being routed into the general labor role. And all the folks in the general labor role were being routed into the general manager role. So they're sitting there for interviews and they're like, what? Like, this guy's a terrible general manager. Why this stupid software? Why do they think they'd be they told me they were going to give me all these great qualified candidates. This person doesn't have any general manager experience. And then for the general labor role, they're like, why does this person want a labor role? Extremely overqualified and very confused when they show up to the in-person interview. And so as soon as we realized it, obviously there was a bunch of backtracking, all hands on deck, communicating both to the client and to the candidates. Like it was a mess. It's one piece of code that's tied to one webhook, right? Like that's all it is. And it has to be manual when we build it. That's why. But we also test, and we have like a 3-layer QA we've got all these things, of course. But that one error caused a business owner a lot of pain, caused candidates wasted their time, and like I feel that. Like I felt that in a big way. And it's easy to be like, oh, general manager and general labor, easy to switch those two. Sure, it is, but that's why like people trust you and it's important. And so like, we obviously took as extreme steps to make it right with the client, extremely apologetic to the candidates, all hands on deck to solve the issue. Like nothing's more important than that. But I think it just highlight in a really good case study. Like we did a full case study with the whole team. So we did all these good things, but it still comes back to like, me sitting there messaging dozens and dozens of candidates, calling them myself to try to explain and apologize, to try to fix it. That was some pain. And also just to like hear the pain in the voice of a customer that had spent time themselves trying to figure out the issue is something that it's real. And like, it's something that should like, it's important to do what we do well. And so that's one where in the Foxhole, felt this pain, they felt this pain. How can I make sure this never, ever, ever happens again with really good systems? So that's a real, and probably maybe like a little bit of a very vulnerable reel for me, but one that's been top of mind in the last few months is to build systems to make sure that never happens again.
And having to address, like you said, be vulnerable, be accountable to it, and you did, you owned it. Sometimes we can be in those situations with clients and not just try and sweep it under the rug. Like, oh, it was a piece, like it's normal to have issues, or whatever, and you didn't. Like, you can tell that you felt it as like a personal failure that you guys had to overcome. Like, we failed this business owner. Our mission to make this hiring process easier, not only did it make it easier, it made it more difficult and trauma. So the opposite of the mission. And you can tell that you felt it, but it's how that you really like sat in the failure. And that's where the lessons come from, trying not to, sweep them under the rug, but like, I'm going to sit in this, feel it like the business owner did. And how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Totally. Have you all read Extreme Ownership?
Oh yeah. Jocko and
yeah. I reread that book after that happened, because when we did the case study with the whole team, it was a good example of being like, this is a me problem. Obviously it's an all of us problem, but it's a me problem. Here's what happened. Here's how we'll make sure it never happens again. But I was just sitting there being like, I got to read Extreme Ownership again. This book is so like, this is why this thing was written literally for this instance. And I feel like we've been having some good book swaps lately, so I figured I'd pop that one up.
Yes.
Well, and I love how you embraced it too, because you could have just wrote it off and said, oh, there was a computer error, whatever, glitch in the system. Let's just get a new one out there and we'll start over and be done with it. But no, like, you went out and did the work yourself. You said you were actually calling the clients, which says a lot about you and your company, what you're trying to do, because there was an error, but like, you wanted to rectify as much as you can to make the customer still feel good about your service, and not put a bad taste in the community for them as a business owner, for like wasting their time and everybody showing up for an interview and it's not even the interview they need to be there. It's like going and pressure washing the wrong house. Like, really messed this one up. but you got a free house wash out of this one.
That's pretty sweet. Your house looks great. One thing that's actually really interesting is that company referred, like, we got a referral the other day from that client that we didn't treat well. So I think obviously, fairy tale ending, blah, 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 for a bad thing. But it was cool to see the data point where they obviously felt heard, whether or not they felt heard enough to be like, hey, you should give this company a try, which was super validating to the team, and made sure to like celebrate that with everyone. Like, hey, you see this new client they were referred in? That shows that all the work fixing this, not only for them, was worth it, but it just shows the importance of listening to clients and trying to help them. So that felt like a good win after all that negativity.
And we're human. I mean, we're going to make mistakes. We try not to, but owning up to it and fixing it and trying to prevent it from happening again is so important. Even AI makes mistakes when you're freaking ask questions on that. But nobody seems to bat an eye when that happens. But if a small business makes a mistake, everybody's got to know about it. But McDonald's messes your order up every day, and we're still going back tomorrow. I don't get it. For the record, I don't eat McDonald's.
But yeah, it made a huge difference in that client being seen. You didn't just dismiss it, try and make it better, give them a credit, just like wash it under the bridge. And by doing so, you really made that client feel seen, heard, understood. And that is the ultimate compliment, to be referred in the end, because people just want to feel important. It's about that level of customer service you give them, even if the product went wrong, whether it be in this instant, whether it be a service business, like if the, an install, a wash, service didn't go the way they thought it would be, like all the pieces fell apart and something got ruined, it was bad. If that person really feels important and you nurture that relationship with them, and own that, you can not only still save that relationship, but that just speaks volumes to your business.
And yeah, Dan, one thing, like I said, you did embrace it, and I consider mistakes or failures a training opportunity. And 10 years ago, JC, if somebody messed up, like the New York came at me, it was like bad. Like, don't be around me. I'm gonna yell. It's going to be a freaking Godfather movie coming out. Now it's like, all right, first thing I was asked, did anybody get hurt? No?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about it. What happened? I mean, I've literally had guys drop $2,500 worth of equipment off the back of a truck one day, and they came back, and poor kid was scared. I was going to fire him. I'm like, hey, dude, put my hand up, like, you all right? Anybody get hurt? He's like, no. I was like, all right, well, let's just figure this out, see how we can prevent this, and, train to this so it doesn't happen in the future. And that built so much trust in the team that, they felt safe to be able to come to me when a mistake happened, instead of just like, well, let's just hide this. And maybe Dan will never know about this one until a customer finds out or something like that. But now they can, feel good about coming to you like, hey, I messed up, or there's an issue here. We got to fix this. I don't know how to do it. So the way you communicate through failures and overcome them through training evolutions to prevent it from happening is so important in growing the business. From the foundation, like as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
That example, JC, is so powerful. And I know we talked a little bit about this recently, but I'll talk about it again. Like Angela, what you were talking about building your culture via Maslow's hierarchy, and the base being feeling safe, like having your core needs met. Like that's such a good example. And it's just hard to do, and you can't like manufacture that. So the fact that you talked about like the transition to saying like, hey, is everyone safe? It's so easy to sit here or like listening and just be like, oh yeah, I can do that. But when money's tight and $2,500 is a big deal, it's not easy to be like, are you safe? It's easy to be like, oh my gosh, that might impact payroll, or, like, and that's the real test. That's the real test that we all face, is like, can we show up and get that right 9 out of 10 times when things are actually intense? That's such a good example, man. That's such a good example, and it's so hard to do. Still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, like I said, 10 years ago, I did not get it right, but it just took time to be able to adapt and just look back and reflect, like, is that the leader that I would want to work for? If I made a mistake, how would I want to be able to approach somebody with this? And I knew that having that open line of communication without fear of reprisal is so important for culture. Because again, you want raving fans of, not only your customers, but your team to be able to be open and honest with you, and not just have to worry about like, is he telling me the truth, or did he lie to me again today? So
yeah.
And that's a different level of safety when you're saying that, in the culture and building like basic needs and stuff first, but all different levels of safety here. Is it a safe place to fail? Because people won't be honest with you about things that have gone wrong on a job or place blame, if you don't have a culture that is a safe place to fail. And that goes for, our culture in business, our culture that we create in our relationships, our culture we create as parents and as partners, and everything. Like, do we make the people that we lead, the people that we're in relationships with, feel like this is a safe place to fail? And if it's not a safe place to fail, you foster it, then like trust, like there is no culture of trust or honesty, because if it's not a safe place to fail, people are going to go to the wrong measures of success and to cover it up.
Yeah.
And, you talked about in your example, like you took this on as a team, like you took ownership yourself, ownership yourself and in not casting blame. But I think the way you described it, you certainly like embrace that as like, okay, things failed, the code failed, or, what we thought had right failed. And that's okay, but how are we going to make it better?
General manager and general labor, although starting with the same word, are very different meanings.
Different structures.
They
Oh,
sound
you're
very
hired. Oh, what?
That's how we're going to start the meeting off. That's how we start the case study meeting off. I've learned one thing. 2 words that are similar can mean very different things.
Dan, I want to talk about the dynamic of your company because you are very remote and, you have a different way of communicating with your team. There's no office for everybody to go to. And that's kind of been the shift since COVID, I guess, if you will, of being remote. Like, how is that for you to be able to shift into that and, grow your company and work with your team on a daily basis, but just communicating through a monitor or a phone? What challenges have you had with that?
It's a really good question. And I was actually talking about this today with one of the engineers on our team, because we were having a meeting and I was like, hey, he's been with us for a long time. And so he's been with us when there was 3 people and now there's 18 people. And so he's seen a lot of the growth over the last year in our team. And I will answer this question, but I think like, how do we think about it is very different when there's 3, 7, 12, 18. Yep. And then when I think about it with Conquer, there was a small group of initially like 6, 10, and then eventually when I moved over here to HireBus, we were in the 70s of people there. And so the way that you operate these remote teams is just like so different over time. And I'll talk about like what we're doing right now and then what we're on the cusp of and what I experienced a little bit with Conquer. So right now we're in the phase where you can get everyone on a Zoom. Like on Monday mornings, you can have a team meeting, everyone on a Zoom. You can do, and what we try to do there is the whole point of the meeting is not necessarily it's the most efficient meeting of the day. We try to make sure everyone's aware of KPIs and a few folks that are driving different functions can share progress. So there's visibility across the business of what's going on. Visibility is one of our core values. But then we also make sure to highlight an individual every week. And we call it a team share. And the first go around, we had a slide that's like, what makes me me, what you need to know about working with me, what gives me energy, and photos. And then as we get through everyone, we then cycle to like deeper items where we'll go over some of your HireBus score information, et cetera. What's powerful about that is it builds empathy, which is another one of our core values. And so people are like, oh, I see Patricia on Zoom, but I don't know that she goes and plays basketball after her shift ends every day. Like that's cool. Oh, we learned that a lot of folks play instruments. And so now we have a channel where we share songs. We have a channel where one of the folks on our team updates about his love life because he shared that. And like, that's by far the best Slack channel in HireBus. So like, I think that's kind of up until like 20-ish people is what I found is you can do that. Mm-hmm. And it's people still feel comfortable asking questions, and 20 is a little bit of a push. And then at a certain point, it's hard to have like a lot or weekly all team meetings. And you need to have sub team meetings where people can still like, unmute and ask a question weekly. And then like large team town halls bi-weekly or monthly. And so we're navigating that size piece right now as we grow. And it's really interesting to see like, when does that break point happen where it's no longer community and it turns into anonymity at a certain size? And I don't think there's like a scientific number to it, but in my experience, it's been around like high teens to low to mid 20s is where it just feels a little off getting together with everyone weekly. I'd be really curious, like Angela and JC, you have a very large team and you face the same challenge. Like, what are some of the learnings that you've had?
I would say it's at that breaking point. It's interesting you said that. And I would say that breaking point and moving to the next level is when you fit on more than one Zoom screen. Because that's the 20, when everyone's face fits on one, And now we're just on our all team meeting, and it, there's when you're scrolling through 3 and more frames,
literally 3. You're trying to get like faces and stuff.
Everyone's as small as they can be, and it's 3. You have to change what it is. Like when you said highlighting a person of the week, I was like, oh, I missed that face. When it's little and you can do that. We do a thing called question of the day. And that's how we learn the little facts of each other. When you're in the monumental numbers of people, everyone still answers them in a quick question of the day. That's how everyone like checks in the morning and says they're here as an answer to a question of the day. And it can be, do you play an instrument? And sometimes everyone doesn't read through every once, but you learn a lot about people. Like what today's was share a picture of your pet.
And that rotates between each team, right?
Somebody different asks the question every single day. But
cool.
And it can be weird. Like it can be all out a question. JC's VA, you had to sing. If you could give Unique Genius the theme song, what would it be? And you had to sing the song. Because karaoke.
I was amazed at how many people actually did it. I'm like, you asked that in the United States, you're gonna get like maybe 1 person out of 100.
I would love to see that at like a huddle, at the shop before going out. That would be an electric question of the day. Well, JC, you're gonna sing your Unique Genius theme song, right? That's what we're.
I'll get my AI JC to do it.
That's really cool.
So, it's different, how you do different things, but I would say it's the same as you. There's the point where you are all together to know that this is one tribe, and what do we do to know we're one family, one tribe, and then exactly to have smaller cohorts for different things. You have social cohorts, professional cohorts that they really always feel like they have a voice and are contributing in then as well.
That's really cool. That's really cool. It's interesting that you found that like similar breaking point. That there's all these like I don't even know the word for it. Anthropology, I guess, studies about like tribes and number of people that we can know in our head and actually know. And it's like 140-ish is the number of people. Then that there was a lot of, that's how like, villages and tribes were a lot of that size. Then as they grew, it'd be like multiples of that. But it's interesting. There's probably going to be a study of Zoom, be like, once an organization got to 25, then these types of meetings needed to happen. One thing that we did recently, and this was not intentional at all, we had an exec meeting, me, my co-founders, Nick and Brandon Vaughn. We're all together on a meeting. And like, we were just starting to do something. We're like, all right, you do this, and you do this, just so we can like get this done together. And then like the meeting ended, but it was near the end of the day. And we all just like kind of just kept working. Like I was answering emails, Nick, they were all just like we were all just kind of doing stuff. And 15 minutes later, I think it was Brandon that said it. He like kind of looked up and he's like, this is really nice. It's really nice just to like sit here and work with you guys. Like we're all across the country, and it's nice to just be in a room working. And so we haven't done it a ton, but every so often we'll just like get on a Zoom as a working session and work, and you can ask questions. So that was kind of a fun little one that we did recently. We're all like, this is nice to actually like hang with you guys and shoot off emails and not have it be a meeting where we're just staring at a camera talking.
Yeah. It's so intentional. Yeah.
Because like Monday was it Monday? No, Tuesday. Tuesday was the one, and I was on that one with her team. And a virtual culture is a little bit harder to have an impact on them. So you got to keep it fun, you got to keep it exciting, but you also, you got to get a feel for what they want. And we asked one of the questions too, is like, what excites you? Like when we come to the Philippines, like what would you want to see? Like what would you like to do? Because everybody has different, but it was fun just to see everybody actually engage, interact, and just keep the energy high for them, knowing that you're really not going to see each other too often, but when you do, on the Zoom, let's make it impactful.
So that's so true. And what were some of the things that people are excited about for when you all go to the Philippines?
The karaoke and making Angela try.
Making us eat the weird food.
All the weird food out there.
Weird food. Yeah. Weird food. That
they got
out.
Baloo, which is the egg of a duck. No.
Yeah.
it's a duck egg, like a fetus of a duck.
Oh.
Yeah, they showed us pictures and it's a delicacy over there. I'm like, I don't know if I could stomach that one.
I've been knowing for a few years I had to eat this.
You're like, we're
but
going
yeah,
to Fear Factor? What are we going to do here?
It'll be interesting. I mean, building a virtual culture has, and that's one of the things I studied when I started this too. You know, when we have talked about like building a culture, I knew in the beginning it was virtual. And I was just on a call today. They're just like, well, if you've been in business this long and you've scaled businesses, like, why did you choose not to scale this one quicker? And I was like, yeah, it was actually very intentional. And I said that when we met, you were like, why haven't you blown it up? And I was like, I very intentionally did not, because I had to get this culture piece right. And you couldn't rush culture. Like I knew once I went out, I can sell, right? Like that I could go out and sell clients, but I had to really build the foundation that I was talking about. And then this core group of people that trusted me, not for a couple of weeks, but for a couple of years, you know, a really solid foundation of this virtual culture that we had a large group of people who had been with us years so that it could sustain, you know, it was a solid enough culture that would sustain a scale and growth. So I guess
Talk
that
about
virtual
such good vision. Sorry, Angela. I just want to like, I remember we were sitting in the lobby and I instinctively was like, well, why don't you just do this? Just pull on the lever and like, come on. And you'd have such a clear vision for not only like what your business is and how to get there, and be like, no, I'm not going to like go for the fool's gold and pull the lever and create these risk factors. I think that's part of what created such good conversations around like, what books are you reading? What are your philosophies on this stuff? Right? Like, because it takes time to have that clarity of vision and that confidence of vision to know like, yeah, this is the right way to do it. And it shows. So it's just really cool to go back to that and be like, no, don't touch that lever. That lever, although that will work in the short run, it's not tied to what we really want to build here.
Dan, we got like just getting ready to wrap this up. But I just want to kind of end on the HireBus notes because I love the assessment that I took to kind of gauge where I'm at and challenge Angela here to who's the better CEO. And, you know, we talked about it last night as well too. But for anybody who doesn't know about HireBus, where can they go to find out, and how can they take that free assessment? Because I think I know it's such a powerful tool. And for anybody listening, like, listen to Dan. Go to this website, take the assessment. It'll take you no longer than 10 minutes. There's no thinking. It's a word bank. It's adjectives. It's fun. But where can they find this info?
You got to go to hirebus.com/free. Click the link. You'll take an assessment. Like JC said, it's 5-ish minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And that's like the power of it, is its simplicity. It's a list of adjectives that describe how you often behave, and the results from those simple inputs will blow your mind. The power of this is, it's not me. It's been around for over 40 years, taken millions of times, customized first for large businesses and then specifically for the trades. Go to hirebus.com/free, take it. And what's really cool is you can take it and then schedule a call. And that call can serve as 2 purposes for you. We're very happy to do either. One, it can be like a true demo call to understand HireBus or software, blah. But it also can be a call where you're just like, hey, I just want you to help me understand my readout of my results. We'll send them to you via email, but we'll also go over them with you live. So like we said earlier, our mission is to empower the forgotten small business owner. And if just having a little bit more understanding of like your key behaviors will help you, cool. My team will be happy to meet with you for 15 to 30 minutes to go over those results. So you can hopefully understand who to bring on your team to complement you, what areas to focus on in your own development, what are your strengths that you want to lean into. There's just so much to glean from it.
Yeah, such a powerful tool for your business as a business owner to understand yourself and your team. And if you're listening right now, you're like, this isn't for me. I promise that just take the opportunity to take the test, learn a little bit about yourself, and have the HireBus team just explain to you what it's for and the strengths of using it. and you'll quickly realize like, hey, this is a tool that I need to help grow my company. And I know the impact you're going to have on just thousands of business owners over the next couple of years. I'm excited to see it grow and see what's going to develop out of that. So thank you so much for jumping on today with us, Dan.
Thanks, y'all. This has been a ton of fun.
All right. Well, that's another episode of In the Foxhole. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for another episode next week. Take care.